For now, let's move on the map to Capitol Hill. Three big stories, so we're going to dig into that as well. First of all, the man President-elect Donald Trump tapped to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He is trying to drum up support from senators ahead of a confirmation hearing that is set for next month. Second big headline to come out of Capitol Hill, a briefing on those mysterious drones that continue taking over skies on the East Coast and causing a lot of alarm and concern. And third, the work to slash government spending in something new called the Doge Caucus. So let's begin with RFK Jr. and the reporting of CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Nikole, nice to have you with us. So President-elect Trump really threw his support behind RFK Jr. yesterday. Do you get a sense that that's going to help him in his conversation with senators?
Well, he's actually been pretty supportive of him since he selected him, but certainly he reaffirmed that in his news conference yesterday, saying that he doesn't believe that he's going to be as radical as some people think, and also reaffirming that he's a big believer in the polio vaccine. Of course, there was some controversy around RFK Jr.'s positions around it since his personal attorney 2 years ago submitted a petition to the FDA seeking to revoke approval for the polio vaccine. So as soon as he landed here on Capitol Hill yesterday, we saw RFK Jr. say, I'm all in for the polio vaccine. But since then, he really hasn't answered many more questions about what that means, if he does, in fact, intend to keep it and not get rid of it, and what his views are with respect to other vaccines. Certainly at times he has suggested a potential link between vaccines and autism. That is something he has been asked about many times here on Capitol Hill, but has yet to respond. So that being said, a lot of these meetings are underway with senators. He met a short time ago with Senator Robert Marshall of Kansas, who happens to be a physician, and he has a slew of other meetings planned for this afternoon.
Nikole, while we have you there on Capitol Hill, following yesterday's school shooting tragedy, once again we hear calls for gun control and this legislation. We do know that there are at least 7 gun control related discharge petitions set to expire at the end of this month. What can you tell us about that?
Well, not too much, unfortunately, because they're just that. I mean, they're discharge petitions that haven't really been discharged, and they're technically a mechanism that's kind of put into play by the minority as a way to, get legislation onto the floor. But it requires, a significant number of votes just to be discharged onto the floor. And given that Democrats are in the minority and Republicans are in the majority, it's unlikely Democrats would ever have enough votes to get something moved. That being said, we have seen a bipartisan outpouring of support for the victims of that Madison school shooting. Many members of the Wisconsin congressional delegation, from Senator Ron Johnson to Republican to Congressman Mark Buchan, who represents Madison, have all said, that their thoughts and prayers are with the community. But obviously, more of the reaction we have seen from Democratic lawmakers has been calling for some type of action. But as you know, Reed, we're now the calendar day and days are slipping away from us, so there's really not much time for lawmakers to get anything done at this point if they wanted to around the issue of gun control.
So stay with us, because earlier today, House Speaker Mike Johnson talked about government funding, another hot topic there on the Hill. Let's listen to that.
This is not an omnibus, okay? This is a small CR that we've had to add things to that were out of our control. These are not man-made disasters. These are things that are that the federal government has an appropriate role to do. So I wish it weren't necessary. I wish we hadn't had record hurricanes in the fall, and I wish our farmers were not in a bind so much that creditors are not able to lend to them anymore. We have to be able to help those who are in these dire straits, and that's what the volume of the pages to this is. So it is not an omnibus. This is a CR. Again, we're not doing all the approach bills. We're doing a CR to patch us into the first quarter of next year so that we can put our fingerprints on what those final spending bills are, and we're looking forward to doing that.
There's a ticking clock. They run out of money midnight on Friday. So where do we stand on all of this?
Yeah, and so that's why I was saying, because of that ticking clock, that's why not too much else will get done until they're able to clear the decks on this. But look, we are hoping to see some legislative text today. That certainly was the Speaker's hope and anticipation. He pledged that we would with respect to this continuing resolution. He did, though, indicate that it will go into March of next year, March 14th to be specific, because he said that coincides with the House and Senate calendars, and that this is, for the most part, a basic, clean CR CR. But what you heard there in that soundbite is he was just defending the fact that some things did have to be added on, which he said he wouldn't do previously right before the holidays. But it will include critical aid, for instance, for those who were impacted by Hurricanes Helene and Milton earlier this year, and also will include some additional assistance for farmers who the speaker said had been really hit hard this year, particularly around the issue of commodity prices. So from that standpoint, that's broadly speaking what we expect to come out of this package once it's released.
CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion, always out of the park on Capitol Hill. Thank you so much for joining us today.